Here with me today, I have my mom, my grandma, and my other grandma. Good afternoon. My name is Paxton Vaughn, and I'm going to tell you about the biography and life events of Helen Keller. Now I'm going to start off by asking all of you to close your eyes for a moment. It's pretty dark, huh? Now I'm going to stop talking for a few seconds, and I want you to keep your eyes closed. It's pretty dark and lonely, right? Imagine living with that for about 86 years. Life would probably be, or seem to be, impossible. Well, welcome to the everyday life of Helen Keller. Although Helen Keller had many disabilities, she was a true inspiration for all, with what she made out of her life. Helen Keller was born on June 27, 1880 in Tuscumbia, Alabama, to Catherine Adams Keller and Arthur Keller. She had two stepbrothers who were older than her, and she had two full-blood younger sisters. Growing up, she was a normal child. According to biography.com, Helen was making great advancements as an infant. She began to talk at only 6 months, and even more astonishing, she began to walk at the age of 1. Everything seemed bright for young Helen Keller, that is, until she was diagnosed with brain fever at 18 months. I know what you're thinking. What is brain fever? Well, according to Wikipedia and biography.com, brain fever was known as, or could probably be known as, scarlet fever or maybe meningitis. That might not sound as intimidating as it really was, but you have to remember that it was probably 1882 when she got diagnosed with it, and the medicine really wasn't as effective as it is today. 3 days after poor baby Keller was diagnosed, she lost her ability to both see and hear. Around the age of 5, Helen began to realize that she was different from all the other kids. She couldn't get her thoughts across to others of what she wanted and other things like that. I mean, how would you feel if you couldn't express how you wanted or what you wanted? So she began to get angry and throw crazy tantrums. Her parents got so fed up with it and they knew they had to do something. So they hired Anne Sullivan in hopes to be an effective teacher and role model to Helen Keller. After the hiring of teacher Anne, Helen's tantrums were not showing much improvement. So Anne asked to be isolated from the rest of the family, just Helen and her. They moved into something like the Keller's guest house and began learning away. The first word Helen learned was doll. Anne taught her how to name objects by spelling words into each other's hands, just like this. They figured out the complications of finger spelling, and she was unstoppable. Anne also began Helen in speech classes, which took some time, but it was no problem for dedicated Keller. She mastered the art of speaking, which is a great accomplishment for people who can't hear and much more see. Helen still wanted more. She attended college at Radcliffe College from 1896 to 1901. Henry Rogers, a man truly inspired by Helen Keller's story, paid for Helen's tuition in full. By the time she graduated, she could touch lip read, a process where Helen would touch somebody's lips as they were talking, and by the movements and vibrations she felt, she could understand what they were saying. Along with touch lip reading, Helen learned Braille and typing, on top of what she had already mastered, finger spelling and speaking. Miss Keller still wasn't satisfied. She wrote a total of 12 books, including her most popular biography, The Story of My Life, which she wrote in 1903. In 1905, she married the love of her life, John Macy. John was an instructor at Harvard University, and he lived with Helen and Anne Sullivan, and he always helped take care of Helen. They eventually separated, but they were never legally divorced. Helen achieved great things in her adult life. She became a great public speaker and gave inspirational speeches about the social and political ideas. She also helped found the American Civil Liberties Union in 1920. And she was also a member of the American Federation for the Blind, American Braille Press, and the Socialist Party. She was also appointed Counselor of the International Relations. Helen's lifelong teacher and companion, Anne Sullivan, died in 1936, and Helen was devastated. She began traveling the world and giving speeches in many different countries to help keep her mind off things. Due to her perseverance and dedication, Helen was awarded the Theodore Roosevelt Distinguished Service Medal. She was inducted into the Women's Hall of Fame, and she was an honorary fellow of the Educational Institute of Scotland. In 1961, Helen suffered from several different strokes, and she was forced to go back and live in her hometown of Connecticut. She passed away peacefully in her sleep on June 1st, 1968, and she was 87 years old. Now that was just a few days before her 88th birthday. Even though the odds were against Helen Keller, you can see that she beat all the odds. Now I'm asking you to remember how I had you all close your eyes and sit in silence at the beginning of my speech? Think about that. If you had to live every day in silence and in darkness, would you be able to do what Helen Keller did?